Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the most fascinating and, honestly, game-changing solutions sweeping the agricultural world right now. If you're a poultry farmer or really just someone who follows sustainable food systems, you already know that keeping birds fed is getting incredibly expensive. But what if the ultimate solution to sky-high poultry feed costs was literally crawling right under our noses? Today, we're looking at the Black Soldier Fly Larva. It's this remarkable little insect that is completely revolutionizing how we feed our fox, drastically cutting costs, and actually building a truly circular bioeconomy. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll quickly cover the feed cost crisis, explore why the BSFL is such a nutritional powerhouse, break down the specific mixing ratios for broilers, then do the exact same for layers, and finally, we'll look at the real financial impact. All right, Section 1, the feed cost crisis. Let's set the stage with the massive economic hurdle poultry farmers are facing globally. Just look at this number for a second, 75%. According to recent agricultural research, feed can account for up to 75% of your total poultry production costs. I mean, that is a staggering figure, right? When 3/4 of your entire operating budget is tied up in a single input, any little fluctuation in global commodity prices puts this crushing strain on your profitability. Feed efficiency isn't just a nice-to-have goal anymore. It is an absolutely critical determinant of whether a farm survives or goes under. Because of those wild costs, the global hunt is absolutely on. For decades now, the industry has relied heavily on commercial inputs, things like soybean meal and fish meal. But with growing global populations and shrinking resources, the prices for soy and fish meal are just soaring. And on top of that, these traditional ingredients often compete directly with human food supply chains. So this whole challenge has spurred a worldwide search to replace those expensive inputs with alternative protein sources that are local, renewable, and most importantly, waste-based. Which brings us to Section 2, the BSFL nutritional powerhouse. Let's look at the biology of our hero, the Black Soldier Fly Larva. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer density of nutrition packed into these larvae. We're talking about a crude protein content ranging anywhere from 37 to 63%, depending on how you process them. Some studies even measured an amazing 559.9 grams per kilogram of protein right alongside a really healthy dose of crude fat. But it's not just bulk protein. The quality itself is phenomenal. They boast a highly favorable amino acid profile. They're remarkably rich in essential amino acids like methionine and lysine that your birds need to grow. And they bring a naturally high calcium content of 5 to 8%, which is perfect for bone and eggshell development. Honestly, this bug doesn't just match traditional protein sources. In a lot of ways, it outright beats them. But wait, there's more than just raw protein. These larvae bring some serious antimicrobial properties to the table. And they represent a highly sustainable circular bioeconomy. See, they can be reared on organic waste, food industry side streams, pre-consumer waste, you name it. They rapidly convert that trash into high-value protein, which means we are actively recycling nutrients that would otherwise just sit and rot in a landfill. Let's actually zoom in on those antimicrobial properties for a second, because this is fascinating. Black soldier fly larvae contain something called lauric acid. It's a specific type of fatty acid that makes up to 64% of the total saturated fats in the bug. So why does that matter to us? Well, because lauric acid acts almost like a natural antibiotic. When your birds eat it, it modulates their gut bacteria, reduces harmful bacterial counts, and significantly improves their overall intestinal health. You're literally feeding them medicine alongside their dinner. Now, for the backyard or small-scale farmers tuning in, utilizing these larvae is incredibly simple. You essentially have 3 easy options. 1, you can just feed the insects live. Chickens absolutely lose their minds for them. It's basically poultry fast food. 2, you can freeze the larvae, just remember to thaw them out before feeding time. Or 3, you can dry them for long-term storage. Interestingly enough, research shows that oven drying them can actually increase the protein concentration while reducing the fat content, making for an excellent, storable maggot meal. Okay, let's dive into the specifics. Section 3, mixing ratios for broilers. We're looking at meat-producing birds right now. If you're taking notes, this data right here is your crucial operating manual. You can't just swap out 100% of their feed for insects. Birds need a balanced diet. Extensive trials on Ross 308 broilers give us a very clear roadmap. During the starter diet phase, so day 2 to day 10 of the bird's life, you should cap the black soldier fly larvae inclusion at up to 10% of their feed. Then, as they mature into that grower and finisher phase from day 11 to 42, their digestive systems can handle more, allowing you to safely push that inclusion rate up to 20%. And the results of following these specific ratios? Fantastic. Research confirms that an inclusion rate of up to 20% does not compromise broiler performance or meat quality whatsoever. In fact, when fed throughout that whole 42-day experimental period, the 20% inclusion significantly reduced the feed conversion ratio, meaning the birds converted their food into muscle way more efficiently, and it actually increased their final body weight. But what happens if we get a bit greedy and add too much? Well, the data offers a pretty stark warning. At 0% inclusion, the control birds gained 1,426 grams. At a 20% inclusion rate, we see a fantastic jump to 1,514 grams. Mathematically speaking, the absolute optimal sweet spot is roughly an 18.9% replacement, but look what happens when we push that inclusion to 50%. The body weight gain just plummets down to 1,277 grams. Pushing past 30% actually starts to actively harm their growth. So, balance is everything. All right, shifting gears. Section 4, mixing ratios for layers. Let's focus on the birds bred specifically for egg production. Let's break this down because it's vital to note that layer inclusion rates are generally much lower than what we just saw with the broilers. If you're using a commercially processed defatted meal, studies show that just a 3% inclusion optimally balances eggshell thickness and boosts the hen's antioxidant status. If you're using whole, full-fat larvae meal, a 5% inclusion, or 50 grams per kilogram, resulted in a significant improvement in the appearance, texture, and taste of the eggs. For general backyard farmers supplementing whole grain, starting at 10% is a safe, vet-recommended baseline. But clearly, a little goes a very long way with laying hens. And this brilliantly illustrates the distinct benefits depending on your flock. We're taking the exact same bug, but it creates perfectly tailored outcomes depending on the type of bird. For broilers, the focus is on increased muscle weight, better feed conversion, and healthier fatty acids in the meat. But for layers, the BSFL redirects its magic toward reproductive health, enhancing eggshell strength so you get fewer breakages, boosting the hen's internal antioxidants, and tangibly improving how that egg looks and tastes on the plate. Okay, time to talk money. Section 5, the financial impact. We've seen all the science, but what does this mean for the bottom line reality for farmers? Here is the number that should make every single farmer sit up and take notice: 25%. Field studies on small-scale farms, like those conducted in Samar in Indonesia, showed that cultivating Black Soldier Fly Larvae on negligible-cost local food waste to replace expensive rice bran and commercial concentrates led to a massive 25% reduction in monthly feed expenses. Let's translate those percentages into real-world dollars to put it in perspective. For a typical flock of 100 chickens using traditional 100% commercial feed, farmers were spending between $28 and $38 a month. By supplementing their feed with cultivated BSFL, those costs dropped to between $21 and $28. That is a savings of roughly $7 to $10 every single month per 100 chickens. When feed routinely accounts for up to 70% of your total production expenses, shaving off a quarter of that cost meaningfully and immediately improves profitability for these small-scale operations. Honestly, it keeps farmers in business. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We've seen how a simple fly larva can upcycle our organic waste into high-quality protein, replace environmentally taxing soy, boost flock health, and save farmers serious money. The circular bioeconomy isn't just some fancy buzzword. It's a highly functional reality. It really makes you wonder, if insects can achieve all of this by simply eating what we throw away, what other incredible solutions are currently hiding in our waste? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this sparks your curiosity to keep exploring.